Apparently been muted this entire time. I do apologize for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Lear 13, as we are preparing to get underway here for FEC's Summer Indycar Indy 250 here for their second season of Summer Indycar. Last year, it was a relatively green race with long green flag runs, but the yellow flags were perfectly positioned to make it a simple two-stop affair, with the first yellow being around lap 30, and the second yellow being around lap 65 to 70. It ended up making for an interesting race where the strategy should have been very simple, but the majority of the field, the fastest drivers, threw it away, which gave the win to Prius Killer last season. This season, though, new story. Coca Gamer 1188, the hometown boy who comes from the Indianapolis area, starting on the pole for today's event, as the field is lined up in three-wide formation through the entire grid. 7 rows, 3 cars each row. This is the only time this season that we will see this across the year here. A lot of swerving going on farther back in the field. The other drivers on the front row was Claiming Racer 56 and PTG Speed, claiming with that DNF that he had last week, has ended up slipping to third in the championship. PTG Speed on the outside, this is only his third start this season. He has missed several races already. He's just looking to have a good time. Maybe Racing, who is second in the championship, is going to be starting in 4th position. Prius Killer, the defending winner of this race, will be starting 5th. 6 will be Big Block. Then in row 3, you'll have GRPK Golden, along with Thomas 086 and Dusty 1462. After that will be a lineup with several veterans, Amish Gaming 23 and Dino Prime 77, along with newcomer to FEC, 2 Fuzzball. Behind them is going to be a row consisting of NFL Racer 4812, newcomer to 4s overall, Dr. Pepper Please, and Pindaz. Then behind them is going to be another row with Code Zero, Sticky Potato, and Drew Rocks 2006. The last row will be made up of Kneesmorphed, Keen Racing Leo 1, and Scored Buffalo, who is your championship leader at this stage of the season. However, he missed qualifying. There was no bumping in today's event, so he got fortunate. He will be able to jump in, and by default, he will add another 10 points to his points total by the end of today's event. There is still a possibility he could lose the championship lead to either Maybe Racing or Claiming Racer if Scored finishes near the back and one of those two drivers wins tonight's race. Otherwise, though, it is going to be kind of a bye week by Scored Buffalo. Just needs to bring home some points to maintain his points gap going forward. We turn our focus back to the lead of the field. As they come out of the final corner, they should be going green any moment now. It'll be Coca Claiming PTG Speed, who gets the best jump, and we accelerate, and it looks like Coca had a fantastic launch. No one was able to keep up with him. Coca will be the first driver across the start-finish line to begin our race tonight. Claiming Racer already in second. Prius already up in 3rd position, trying to make something happen. Thing is, though, that Coca is going to be punching this giant hole in the air for the rest of the field to fly by. Are we still in ghost mode? I'm still seeing a lot of ghosted cars on the circuit. But now the field comes down into turns 3 and 4. This is once the point that everyone gets to relatively close to their top speed here. And it's a very risky scenario being at top speed in these corners. There's a dive to the inside by Claiming Racer. Now Prius looks to the outside, 3 wide as they cross the start-finish line. It is Claiming on the inside who goes to the front with no issue whatsoever. Prius on the outside slams the outside wall. Prius hard into the outside wall there in turn number 1. But no damage to the car by the looks of it. Claiming Racer still leads. Coca runs in second. Maybe Racing runs in third. Your points leader, Scored Buffalo, has already gone from 21st to 17th in the first lap alone. So he has not. Oh, there's an incident. There's 2, 3 cars, a gigantic incident. 1 car flying upside down, out cartwheeling, nose over tail, as there's at least 3 or 4 other cars involved as well. That might have been Dusty, as one driver came out of the final corner, turned in the middle of the field, got hit. Several cars hit the pit lane attenuator, and Dusty went for multiple end over end flips down the front straightaway. And every single aspect on that car is absolutely destroyed. Other drivers involved include Dino Prime 77, Keen Racing Leo 01. We see Dr. Pepper, he's limping around. Big Block also looks like he's going to be able to get away with it. He qualified relatively high, but I think he may have been the one who was at the epicenter of that incident. So we have our first incident here on was the end of the second lap of racing, and we are under caution very, very early on here at Indianapolis. We'll take a Twitch-mandated ad break because this is going to be a long yellow flag as they try to regather the field back up. We'll be back momentarily here at Indianapolis. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Indianapolis. We are looking at Thomas 086R on the pit lane exit road. Nearly the entire field, honestly closer to about 2/3 of the field pitted, with Thomas being the highest up of all of them. Now, to be fair, Dino Prime 77 and Dustin 1462, who were the two drivers who had the most damage in that instant, they are still on pit road right now. It is going to be a lot longer until they catch back up to the rest of the field here. Your leader is Claiming Racer. The ticker says Pindaz is the leader. That's because Pindaz rushed ahead of the field to go and catch Dusty and give him a shove through turns 3 and 4 so he could make it to pit road a little earlier and would be a little less likely he would end up going a lap down. Your actual leader is Claiming Racer. Coca 1188 hangs out in second position. Maybe is third. So Coca, despite starting on the pole, did not lead the first lap of the race. That is kind of the big thing. When you are leading, you poke a gigantic hole in the air for everyone behind to just run you down and pull by you without issue on these big ovals. Now, if you are a driver who is using a wheel and you are very comfortable and familiar with using a wheel, that may be less of an issue because your smoothness through the corners will save you a lot more time and will neutralize some of the massive draft the cars behind you will get. As we see Pindaz now filters back into line. Dino has already recaught the rear of the grid. And we anticipate Dusty will as well. So we should be going green here on what will be the start of lap 8 on the ticker, but would be the sixth actual lap in the race. Of note, Scored Buffalo was right in the middle of that incident, but did not take any significant damage as far as you can tell. He jumped into the pits as well. So now Buffalo already from 21st to 11th. Again, he does not have to win this race. He's not in a must-win scenario. He just needs to bring home some good points finishes. So that way his closest rivals in the championship, Maybe and Claiming, don't really close down on his title lead right now. Fourth in points coming into this race is still GRPK Golden, despite having a absolutely atrocious event at Miami 2 weeks ago. Golden is still 4th in points, but he is a long way out. He only has about 60% of the points total that Scored has at this stage of the season. Mind you, Scored has missed a race while Golden has been here for every single event thus far. So early in the season at least, the championship looks like it favors high performance, but we know from experience that in the FEC Indycar series, it is consistency, although that is rebuffed a little bit with the way that the drop around feature works this year. So looking real quickly at our leaders' tire compounds, 11% tire wear on Claiming on Coca, who is going to be restarting in 2nd, 12% on his most worn tire, Maybe, who is restarting in 3rd position, 12% on his most worn tire. We are off, and Maybe and Coca did not have a good start at all. That is Prius immediately making ground on Maybe. The top 4 have already, well, top 5 I should say, have already kind of broken away from the field just a little bit here. And it is Claiming and Coca who are already scooting away from the rest of the field. Claiming had a fantastic jump, and while Coca was caught a little bit off guard, he is close enough to have the draft and is able to fight back against Claiming, utilizing that draft. He now pulls to the inside of Claiming, down the back straightaway, completes the overtake nice and smooth. Now Claiming still is going to be in his draft here through turn 4, and Claiming can try and go right back by on the front straightaway. Farther back, you can see a pull out there by, I believe that was Golden, and that is a red card into the wall farther back. Coca does lead that lap there. That might have been Dito who got into the wall farther back there, coming out of the final corner. Scored Buffalo is in the middle of this glove of cars. He's actually gotten into the outside wall just a little bit. No damage. Now he goes by 2 other drivers. That is PTG Speed and Drew Rocks. Dr. Pepper is also slipping backwards through the grid. So now Scored Buffalo back up to 13th. Not the greatest restart, but he is still holding on midfield right now. But it is a 2-car breakaway at the lead. And Scored Buffalo gets in the wall. He gets turned from behind, and now he's turned around in front of the field. Spinning 2, 3 times. And he spins into the pit lane entrance. I think he may have been. No, he is not the only one. There's another car that hit the pit road entrance there. Was that Code Zero? No, that is Big Block. As Code Zero limps his way into the pit lane, but Big Block also has hit the pit lane attenuator, and that car is destroyed. The engine is still functioning, but that car is destroyed. And Scored Buffalo turned, coming out of Speedway Turn 4, spins several times in the middle of the field, and ends up right in pit lane. So being in the rear of the grid is a gigantic risk, and we are going to be under yellow flag already. Our 2nd yellow flag in just 8 laps of racing. So I think the pace for this race, at least for the early stages, has already been set. Again, in this race last season, there were only 2 yellow flags over the entire 100-lap event. We already have 2 yellow flags, and we've not even completed 10 racing laps yet. Coca, his tire is most worn tire is at 20% wear right now. Claiming, who runs in 2nd, his most worn tire is at 19.9%. 3rd place is Maybe, his most worn tire, 73%. 4th place, Prius Killer, the winner of this race last season, 20.2%. GRPK Golden, who's hanging out in the 5th spot right now, 20.3%. So it seems like everyone at the head of this field are on the same tire compound. This is Fuzzball in 6th, who's Golden's teammate. And there we are. We're seeing several drivers farther back pitting. Those are some of the drivers involved in that. So Drew Rocks is pitting. Dino Prime 77 is pitting. Neesmorph pits. Big Block, unsurprisingly, has to pit as well. Scored Buffalo is rushing his way around. He is not going to pit because, again, he spun coming into pit lane. So any damage on his car would be minimal to non-existent, considering he pitted coming into pit lane. And this is Dusty. Already had that gigantic nose over tail flip down the front straightaway at the end of the 2nd lap. And now Dusty in another accident that has destroyed every single aspect in the car. Twice this car has been completely destroyed, nose to tail, top to bottom, in just 8 racing laps. So Coca is your leader this time, your pole sitter. Did not lead the first lap. The draft that he holy punch in the air was big enough for the draft to grab Claiming Racer and let Claiming Racer get by. And now on the restart, Claiming got a good jump. Coca caught a little bit off guard, but it ended up not really mattering because Coca was still close enough to get the draft, negate any lost time, and that duo pulled away from the rest of the field quite a bit. Another thing to talk about, drivers that said, hey, look, the soft compound tires that doesn't last the full fuel tank, and the fuel tank doesn't last a third of the race. The fuel tank can only go about 27 laps, and the tire, the softest compound tire, is not anticipated to even last 27. It's anticipated to last closer to 24, 25 laps before having massive fall off. However, the word was that if there was a lot of yellow flag, you could potentially make this a two-stop affair. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are already on our second yellow flag of the event, and this will massively help out when it comes to making this race a two-stop affair, especially for drivers near the front of the field. If we keep getting these early yellows, sure, they don't really get a chance to pull away from the rest of the grid, but allows them to extend their first fuel tank as long as they can desire. And we are underway. They did not wait for Dusty to get back up. We are already back underway, it seems. And there are drivers farther back. That is about half the field. PTG Speed pits, Dr. Pepper pits, Scored pits, Neesmore pits, Drew, Big Block, Dino, Cozy, about a third of the field pitted just as we went back to green flag. So Coca leads, Claiming Racer second, maybe is third, but again, maybe completely caught off guard. Nowhere near the lead duo. I think he is out of their draft, and he is going to be more under threat from Priest Killer and the GRPK duo of Golden and 2 Fuzzball. And this is likely going to see most, if not all, of those drivers go a lap down here. Scored Buffalo, the leader of that group, already in turn 1, but here come the leaders, Claiming and Coca, firing it down. And yes, this is going to put about a third of the field a lap down very early on here. Typically, the pit road rules at FEC dictate that you can pit during the yellow, but apparently that was not the case this time. And now a full, almost half of the field, honestly, has been trapped a lap down with that. Not just that, these lapped cars are going to be right in the tail of the lead lap pack, and some of them are going to be a lot faster with fresher tires now. So we're going to see a lot of drivers making moves, trying to cut their way through a grid that really they should not be fighting with necessarily, or if they should be fighting with them, they should be fighting on the same lap. Prius Killer has snuck his way by, maybe racing for the third spot now. And the two of them, along with GRPK Golden, trying to do some drafting shenanigans to close in on Coca and Claiming at the head of the field. And it looks to me like they are making it work. The gap is starting to come down here. Claiming does not seem to be in any rush to lead right now. He seems to be content to run right behind Coca. So Coca leads another lap here at Indianapolis. Prius now less than 6 cents out. So he has definitely caught the draft of the top two, and he's going to bring Maybe Racing and GRPK Golden with him. Again, last season, yes, Prius had been fast. He had been running top 5 most of the day, but it had been a fight between Maybe Racing and Dino Prime most of that race, and both of those drivers completely torpedoed their chances by botching a very simple pit stop strategy that pretty much left Prius unopposed at the head of the field near the very end of that race. Now, Prius this time is showing that he has the same amount of speed as last time, even with a larger and a little bit more competitive field, because he has just run down the top two. Now, how is he going to fight to try and get by Claiming here? Or is he going to be content to run in third? There is an advantage in running behind. If you do not think you can make this a two-stop race, even with the yellows, if you want to just hang out in the draft and let the drivers ahead run a bunch of laps in clean air and slow themselves down, you can just lift off coast as much as you want, save quite a bit of fuel, and extend your fuel run by another lap or two. Again, if the fuel tank can only go about 27 green flag laps, you do the mathematics, you need to make the first stint go to about lap 46 or so, 48 on the actual ticker there. Again, very difficult to do, but we have had some yellow early in the event that will upend that exact calculation and make things a little bit difficult. That is Golden who works his way to the inside of Prius. Dr. Pepper Payne again farther back there. So he's already a lap down. He'll now go a second lap down as now Golden muscles his way by Claiming and Coca. So my guess is that Golden says he's not willing to do any follow the leader fuel-saving bullcrap. He wants to go out in front and lead. So Golden will be our third different leader of the race tonight. And Coca comes back down to the inside, side by side, between that hometown boy and that all-black car. And now Golden went so wide in turn 1, kind of caught off guard, that Prius followed Coca through. So now it is Coca and Prius. These two have raced with each other off and on since about early 2018. These two know each other quite well. Claiming has stabilized in the third as Golden slipped back to fourth. Maybe runs in fifth. I think Maybe is absolutely in fuel-saving mode right now. Just laying these drivers ahead, kind of open the gap. There's another 3-car pack farther back. That is 2 Fuzzball Amish and I believe the lapped car of Scored Buffalo, all trying to make something happen there. Maybe in Claiming going at it. Maybe is actually going to end up using this not to pass his teammate, but to pass Golden, as Prius now pulls to the inside of Coca, down the front straightaway here. And down to turns 3 and 4. Prius, nice smooth overtake. A lot more changes at the lead of the field this year compared to last year. Now we are in a bit of a green flag run. Let's see what the fuel and tire wear is for our leaders. 54% in the fuel tank, 46% wear for Prius here. I look at Coca, who runs in second position right now. 52% in the fuel tank, 46% tire wear. GRPK Golden, who runs in third. He's at 41% fuel, 47% on the most worn tire. Claiming, who is now in fourth, as these two are losing touch with the lead duo. 47% most worn tire, 50% in the fuel tank. So he can go a while on the fuel, but the tires are a different issue. And then Maybe in fifth, 48% wear on the most worn tire, 43% in the fuel tank. None of these drivers, I think, are even going to make the 27-lap mark. Again, we're only on what is realistically lap 18 of the affair overall. And all these drivers look like they're going to have to pit sooner rather than later. Neesmorph has gone ahead and he's made his next stop. That is another car that has now gone 2 laps down. So the event continues to become curiouser and curiouser, but it does seem like the 2-stop strategy is not in play for any of these 5 drivers at the head of the grid. Their tires do not have the life in them, and the fuel tanks might be able to go a little bit farther, but not quite far enough to make an easy 2-stop. So I want to go ahead and turn our focus back to this next group. 41% wear here on Amish's most worn tire, and then 2 Fuzzball, who is running with them, 52% wear. So Amish, I think, is on a harder compound tire, working an alternate strategy while running draft with Scored Buffalo right now. But at the lead, it is Prius Killer, the defending race winner, Coca Gamer, your pole sitter, GRPK Golden, the highest outsider in the championship standings. And then 2 of the 3 most dominant forces in FEC, reigning 4th and 5th, Claiming Racer and Maybe Racing. These 5 continue to click off laps here. Now the question is just going to be, how far are these drivers willing to push their tires? Already 55% wear on the right rear for Prius. And the big thing is, of course, Maybe 5th in this line of cars, just hanging out, saving fuel, and Claiming, who is 4th in this line, he is going to be saving fuel as well. We are under a nice green flag run right now, a little bit farther back in the grid. This is all these lapped cars. Speed, Drew Rocks, Dino, all these guys have ended up pretty close to each other without too many other lapped cars running with them. Pindaz jumps into the pit, so he's going to be the first driver out of the top 10 positions to make a pit stop now. And I'm very interested to see, because one thing to consider under this long green flag run, drivers who pitted coming to the green will actually end up in track position ahead of drivers who pit under normal green flag conditions, because they will have lost less time coming into the pits compared to the rest of the field. Now, I don't know how much of an advantage it will be, but it will be something to keep an eye on anyway. So Scored Buffalo running draft with another car right now. He's only about 5 seconds off of this lead group. When this group pits, could Scored Buffalo make up an entire lap and then 5 seconds and get back into the lead fight potentially? He is leading amongst all those drivers who pitted as they came to the green flag. King Racing Leo has jumped into the pits this time by as well now, so he'll also go a lap down. It's still Prius, Coca, Golden, Claiming, and Maybe in the top 5 positions right now. Our top 5 all running within half a second of each other, but no one willing to make any moves, no one willing to pull out and do anything right now. Everyone is just focused on trying to maximize their lap time and be careful on that right rear tire. 64% wear for Prius. A look at Maybe, who is 5th in line. He can let off a lot more. He's already at 65. That is the thing. When you are 5th in line, you can let off the throttle a lot more to try and save fuel, but you also have to be a lot more careful jumping on and off throttle, especially jumping on throttle aggressively to keep up with the pack, because you run the risk of burning up the tire even more. And now they've all just cleared Golden. So Golden now falls to 5th in this line, and Prius and Coca are actually starting to break away a bit, I think, from Claiming and Maybe, but Golden has now fallen to 5th and is now hemorrhaging time to that group. 67% wear, and I think Golden has crossed the limit of what he can handle, as he is now lost of 2nd and 3/4 to the leaders in just the space of a lap alone. Prius and Coca continue to run nose to tail at the head of the field. Claiming to Maybe run nose to tail 3rd and 4th position. The interesting one is going to be Coca pinning this time by. Prius joining him. Claiming to Maybe want to stay out for a little bit longer. They are already at 69% wear on that right rear tire, is Claiming. Maybe his most worn tire right now is at 71% wear, but they still have plenty of fuel in the tank. Again, to make it a 2-stopper, with all the stints being equal in length, you'd want to get to about lap 34. They're at lap 28 now, but will the tires last 6 more laps for this duo? Because if it does, that's great news, but they'll have to pit. Oh, they've aborted. They're coming in now 1 lap farther than Coca and Prius, but they've pitted this time by. And Coca and Prius coming out of the pit lane. Where are they going to be in relation to GRPK Golden? That is going to be the real question. And Amish Gaming now goes into the lead, so he will be our 4th different leader of the race. Well, actually, 5th different leader of the race. Golden still way behind Prius and Coca, not really close to them. An NFL racer also up into the 2nd position as well. He's got 64% wear on his tires. I look at Amish, who leads right now. He has got 64% as well in his rubber. Thomas now paying out of the 5th spot. And when it was all said and done over, Scored is still running just a little bit behind our current leader, Amish. NFL now pits on the 28th racing lap. Scored now pulling up behind Amish. Gets to his inside. This should be an easy overtake, and that would put Scored back onto the lead lap. Now, mind you, Scored's already got his tires to 52% wear. So he's back on the lead lap now. The softer tires are giving him a lot of pace. But he's only going to be out here for another 2 to 3 laps, and then he'll have to pit again anyway. So now we're looking at about 70 laps to go in the event. Based on fuel alone, if we stay green to the end, this is not a one-stop. This is not a race where you can just pit now and make it to the end on 1 more stop. I think everyone still has 2 more stops. Right now, Prius is well clear of Claiming and Maybe. Coca seems to have had some sort of issue getting up to speed. He has fallen behind Claiming and Maybe, and is now being passed by lapped cars and has been caught by GRPK Golden. But Prius now runs in no man's land. This is awful news because Claiming and Maybe in 3rd and 4th, they can do drafting shenanigans to run down on Prius. Amish pits after 29 racing laps. Mind you, we had about 4 laps of yellow in that entire run. So realistically, I do think the fuel tank can really only go about 27 racing laps. Oh, that is Claiming into the outside wall in turn 1. But it does seem like the fuel tank can only go 27 laps. So this is not a one-stop left affair by any means. There's still going to be a lot of racing going on. And at least 2 more stops for everybody. Some drivers may have to make 3 more stops. Scored Buffalo in pit lane. Is he going to be back on the lead lap after this is all said and done with? He is rolling down the front straightaway, but Prius just crossed the start-finish line now. Is Scored back on the lead lap? No! He goes a lap down again. Mind you, in FEC, they require you to take the entire proper pit lane exit here So it's not like he's just barely a lap down. He is about 8 seconds behind our leaders and still has not gotten up to speed yet. That is Coca and Golden coming up, and they'll get back by. So Prius leads, Claiming Racer and Maybe Racing runs second and third right now. GRPK Golden hangs out in fourth, and Coca Gamer runs in fifth. Amish on a strategy that saw him go very long early on is in sixth. PTG Speed, who pitted as they went to the green on the last restart, is seventh, but that is because he has not yet pitted. So he is trying to make it to the end on only one more stop. He is 10 seconds behind the leader, but he is betting on this stop and then one more. Everyone else also still has 2 more stops to make, but if we go green to the end, PTG Speed has made up a respectable amount of time on the lead group. He has running with 2 Fuzzball right now. Fuzzball on a softer compound tire fresher compound tire, because he did not pit on that restart. So it is PTG Speed who leads everybody who pitted as the field came to the green flag. And that is Drew Rocks now paying out of 11th. So we got 16 drivers on the lead lap, but now we're going to start seeing those numbers fall away very shortly here, because all those drivers who pitted as we went to the green, now they have burnt up their fuel in their tires. They will be coming in this time by now. And all the while, Prius is continuing to gap the duo of Claiming and Maybe. And GRPK Golden hangs out in fourth, but not quite close enough to catch this duo. But it seems like Prius solo is faster than Claiming and Maybe. Again, Prius was competitive in this race last season. He ran with the lead pack all event long last season. But he really capitalized off of the strategy blunders from Maybe and Dino that year. Now, Prius is showing that he does not need a strategy blunder to win. He is dominating right now on sheer merit. So 14 drivers still on the lead lap. I look at Prius, I have to wonder, what compound tire is he on? 52% still in the fuel tank, 23% is his most worn tire. I look at Claiming, who pitted a lap later, 13% on the most worn tire, 75% in the fuel tank. Maybe Racing, who runs in third position right now, 76% in the fuel tank, 14% most worn tire. So Claiming and Maybe both on harder compound tires than Prius. So yes, Prius is gapping right now, but it seems like it may be off of tire differences. And Claiming and Maybe have the actual advantage because they are not losing a massive amount of time to Prius, and they are poised to try to make it one more stop to the end. I don't think it's going to happen, but they are trying to make it one more stop to the end. While Prius, I think, is already committed to 2 more stops before this race is over. PTG Speed pitting out of the 7th position now. So he's gone 37 laps. So for him, there's 63 laps left in the affair. Can Speed split the remaining 63 laps in half? If he did so, that would be 38 laps. About 38 laps. A run on 38 laps, another run on 38 laps, roughly. But again, Speed had the advantage of pitting as we came to the green flag. So his actual run was closer to just a normal 27-lap run. So while he is looking better, he is nowhere near the position to actually do anything to the leaders. And Prius is now starting to lose time to Claiming and Maybe. It doesn't look like it's tire wear, though. It looks like he's just catching traffic. That is right ahead of him. Who is that? That is 12th place Keen Racing Leo, who now goes underneath and will overtake him on merit. So Racing Leo goes a lap down now at Indy, and we are down to just 11 cars still on the lead lap. And now after passing traffic, the gap between Prius and second and third starts going back to the 3-second mark. But again, Claiming and Maybe on a harder compound tire, trying to make something else happen here. Trying to get as close to a one stop as possible. They may need some yellow to make it happen, but they are poising themselves well for it. Thing is, if we get a yellow, all the gap that they have over all their rivals will be gone instantly. Then GRPK Golden hanging out here in the 4th spot. He is also 4th in points coming into this race. Outside of the championship fight, because he has had that one atrocious day at Miami where he was leading before being involved in an accident and flipping out of turn number 4. One car hitting the wall farther back. That may have been Fuzzball, I think. If not fuzzball, maybe one of the lap cars. No, it was a lapped car. After making his pit stop, PTG Speed is ended up back here with just a little bit ahead of Dino Prime, who's in this little glut of cars. He is running with 2 other lead lap cars. That is Fuzzball and NFL right now, and that is a slow car. Is that Dusty? Yeah, that is Dusty, who has been at the epicenter of the 2 accidents we've had, and he's had another accident. Now, the engine is still firing on the thing, so whatever has happened, he looks like he just went wide and went into the outside wall. He should be able to pit. Keeps it out of the wall in turn 3. And the track is relatively clear behind, so we should be able to make it back in the pit lane without too much issue here. And that is the case, so we should stay green here at Indianapolis. Now, Claiming and Maybe have caught traffic and are about to dispatch it. Again, that is Keen Racing Leo that they're going to deal with. Claiming immediately catches the draft and sucks right up to Racing Leo there in turns 3 and 4. Just a bit of contact between them. And with that draft, Claiming and Maybe close the gap down to less than 3 seconds again against Prius. Again, Prius ran a softer compound tire than Claiming and Maybe. He will be pitting sooner than them. Already, he is at 42% wear on the tires. I look at Claiming and Maybe here. They are at 26% wear on their most worn tire right now. So just off the back of tire life, I think Prius will have to pit a second time. Claiming and Maybe, though, I'm not sure what they can do. Again, I was told the fuel tank can go about 27 laps, maybe 28 or 29 if you're doing a lot of fuel saving. But these 2 drivers would have to make it to lap 70 to make that one more stop left strap work. And therein lies the thing. If Prius is able to still make it a 2-stop affair to the end, if we stay green to the end, that is, and Prius and Maybe and Claiming all just make it a 2 more stops from now to the end of the race, well, if Prius is on softs all the way through and Maybe and Claiming are on the medium tires once and then softs later, Maybe and Claiming are going to have to try and pull out some speed and run down Prius near the end of the event here. Amish and Coca still running on top of each other, but Coca, we did not see what happened, but he seemed to have some sort of issue getting up to speed coming out of pit lane and has fallen out of touch with the lead pack. He is now running with Amish, who ran very long on the first round of fuel and tires. Is that Dusty again? No, that wasn't Dusty. Someone was slow there. Was that Racing Leo? It is Racing Leo. On the outside there. He just lets the lead lap cars by. He is just now gaining up to speed, so he is pitted and is just now gaining up to speed. Right now, of all the drivers a lap down, Scored Buffalo is leader, PTG Speed is second, Dino Prime 77 is third, but it does seem like being a lap down has kind of trapped them in the no man's land. They need a yellow flag to bunch the field up and get them their laps back. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Prius now starting to open the gap on Maybe and Claiming just a bit once more. So we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch mandated ad break. We're going to ride for a lap on board with our leader, Prius, here at Indy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have about 54 laps left in the event. Prius Killer is your leader, with Maybe Racing Claiming Racer hanging out about 3 1/3 seconds behind him. They're not really closing, but they have the advantage of potentially making shorter pit stops later in the affair. GRPK Golden hangs out in 4th position. Fuzzball, his teammate, has just pitted out 7th. This is Amish running with Coca, who was your pole setter. They are running in the 5th and 6th positions right now. For your points leader scored Buffalo, he is the first driver 1 lap down at this stage of the event, trying to muscle his way around traffic, but some of these cars that are 2 laps down are faster just by virtue of having fresher tires right now. Again, tire life really coming into play at this stage of the event. So after 2 yellow flags in the first 10 laps of the race, we are on a very long green flag run that has seen the field get very spread out. And the question is going to be, we know almost for a fact that everyone has 2 more stops to the end of the race. The question is, when do you make those stops? And for Prius, does he have enough of a gap over Maybe and Racing, that Maybe Racing and Claiming Racer, that when those 2 make their stops and they have fresher tires on the end, will Prius have enough of a gap that they won't be able to catch them? Here we go. Is the 48th racing lap, and Prius pits now, so he has to go about 24 more laps on a stint, and then another 24 after that if he wants to make this nice and smooth to the end. Well, sorry, not 24, 26. And he's been going by Golden and Coca. I imagine those drivers are all in the mindset they're going to throw on soft tire compounds, go for about 24 laps till those tires are dead. So, not 24, about 26 laps till the tires are dead and the fuel's gone. Pit again and keep going. But Maybe and Claiming here on an alternate version of the strat. They're on a harder compound tire now. They're trying to go deeper into the run at the moment. So that way, when they do pit later, they may have the option to put on softer compound tires. And even if they don't, even if these drivers end up on the same tires as Prius, Golden, and Coca for the rest of the race, they are going to have a tire life advantage to the end of the event. That is the other thing that they are betting on working in their favor. And after making a pit stop, look at this, Prius, he is still on the lead lap, but he has not yet gotten up to speed yet. You can hear the teammates of Maybe and Claiming behind closing the gap down here. But I think Prius will be just fast enough. He'll be able to stay on the lead lap. Stinky Potato now pitting out of the 7th position. Yeah, that gap between Prius and those teammates is about the same as it was before Prius pitted. So he's basically lost exactly 1 lap and no more, no less by the looks of it. So he is the last driver on the lead lap right now, able to make that stick after pitting a little earlier than this duo. So it is Claiming and Amish. Not Claiming and Amish. Claiming and Maybe at the head of the field. Amish runs about 4.5 seconds back, but Amish went very, very long on the first set of tires. He is already at 67%. You can go long, but you can't go long forever. Thomas and Pindas now pit out of the 5th and 6th positions, and Amish is going to join them. So Amish only has about 48 laps left, so he can go about a pair of 24 lap stints to the end, while Prius is doing something closer to a pair of 26 lap stints to the end. And then again, I'm looking at this group here, Maybe and Claiming, looking at their fuel, looking at their tires. How much do they have left? 16% in the tank, 49% wear. Again, every extra lap these two click off now helps them more and more later if we continue to stay green to the end. Amish in pit lane. He is still in the lead lap, but he'll go a lap down this time by. Prius has to muscle his way by lap traffic there. I believe that was Golden who he just had to get by. Yeah, that's Golden who he's had to navigate past. No, that's not Golden. That is Fuzzball, actually. No? Who is it? That's not Golden or Fuzzball. Who is that? Oh, that's Stinky Potato, who's 2 laps down at this stage of the... Well, 1 lap down, but about to go 2 laps down at this stage of the event. But he's going to use the draft and muscle his way by Prius here, trying to get back on the lead lap, and contact sends Prius wide! Prius goes knocked wide into the wall by lap traffic there, and Stinky Potato was into the wall ahead of him as well. And all the gap that Prius had over the duo of Maybe and Claiming is gone. And now the race win is going to be decided by Maybe or Claiming to the end, because any gap that Prius had over this duo is absolutely gone. It is wiped out. These two will by default be ahead of Prius and will retain the lead after they make their pit stop. So it is going to be teammates at the head of the field. And again, mind you, they are fighting against Scored Buffalo for the championship. Now, Scored has a 30-point lead on Maybe, a 32-point lead on Claiming coming into the event. But Scored, while Scored is being in 5th position right now, he is a lap down and will have to pit sooner rather than later. So he's going to go 2 laps down momentarily, I imagine. So this could be a massive points haul for this duo here. Again, Prius has now lost touch with this duo after being knocked into the wall by lap traffic. So yes, while FEC does apply blue flags, where lap drivers are required to get out of the way of lead lap cars, if the lap traffic is faster than the leaders, they are allowed to try and fight and get back by. And while we saw Stinky Potato was faster, it was only at the basis of the draft, and the moment he had clean air on the nose of the car, the handling changed, and he shot into the side of Prius, which shot Prius wide and into the outside wall, and that has taken Prius out of the lead of the event and more than likely out of contention for this race win. So Maybe and Claiming both pit. Prius will be the first driver to get back onto the lead lap here. So Maybe and Claiming have about 44 laps left, so they have a pair of 22 lap stints to the end here. While their rivals are looking at running like 24 to 27 lap stints right now. Again, Maybe and Claiming will have to deal with a lot less tire fall off as the event continues. And that, coupled with the fact that Prius was knocked offline and into the wall by lap traffic, means that they are going to be the de facto leaders, and as long as there's not another yellow, they will be the race winner, will be decided between those two. We're watching Prius as he is closing the gap down on Maybe and Claiming now. The thing is, he can catch them, but on older tires, he has nothing he can do. Sure, he can run their draft, he can try and save fuel, but he is so many laps behind them in the fuel game, and by extension the tire game, it won't matter. So while Prius had been leading by about 3.5 seconds over this duo after being knocked into the wall, he is now out of drafting range of that duo. Coca and PTG Speed have caught each other on the circuit. That's Dino pinning a little bit farther back there. Speed trying to go long on his tires, trying to just salvage some kind of result out of this. 40 laps left in the affair. And boy, he is hemorrhaging time right now. He's just trying desperately to stay on the lead lap, and it just does not look like that's going to happen. Prius starting to close in on those top two. If he can catch their draft, well, I don't think he'll have any ability to fight them again. Maybe and Claiming are teammates. Prius is the outsider. Although he has ran in FEC before. Again, he ran in the Indycar Series last season, won this race last season. But he's not a super common mainstay in the series. Maybe and Claiming they've raced each other for a long time. They know what each other can do. They do not want to spend time with Prius, who they are not as familiar with. They aren't as sure what he can do here. One thing that's got to be gained under Prius' skin right now is that the car he is drafting with, which is Stinky Potato, is the car that knocked him into the wall about 10 laps ago. So 40 laps to go when the leaders cross the line that time by. Looking at the fuel, 78% in the fuel tank for Maybe. For Claiming, who runs in second, 78% as well. Speed finally pits out of the top 10. But credit where credit is due, Speed is doing everything he can to try and filter himself back onto the lead lap. But he's just kind of so far behind the 8 ball. And this Ford duo at the head of the field is so hooked up This seems to not really matter. Down the back straightaway. Two, three, and four once again. There is a slow car, if not outright stopped car there. That is Dr. Pepper. That is crashed in pit lane entrance. Now the engine is still functioning, but there's a lot of aero and suspension damage. Now it looks like we're staying green. I think Dr. Pepper is finally making it into the pits. So he will now go 4 laps down, but I think we stay green by the looks of it. So we continue to stay green flag here at Indianapolis. After Dr. Pepper crashed into the pit lane attenuator. 9 cars left on the lead lap. Dusty, who has been the epicenter of the 2 yellow flags we've had, he now makes his next stop. Again, everyone on track we believe has 1 more stop left, but it's not going to matter really. It is this duo scooting away from the field. Maybe won the championship last season, but he had a really slow start to his title defense. Only came home with a 10th place result at Hakone in the season opener. In the second race of the season, he was way farther down the grid as well there. And then the third race, he finally started recovering a bit, pulled off a third, but he's been behind Scored Buffalo by a significant margin each race thus far this season. That Scored has been in, at least. There was also the Sunset Roval race where Claiming Baby and Scored were all on in the podium positions at the end as well. But maybe finally starting to put together the proper championship defense that we expect of him. As we watch Prius lose ground to those 2 Fords in the front. The car he is drafting with is obviously not someone he is happy running with. Well, we're just about 2/3 of the way through this event. Last season, in this race, the last yellow came a little bit earlier than this in the race. And it was strategy miscues. Well, it was a very simple strategy, but massive strategy miscues that decided to win there. This time, though, it looks like it will be lap traffic that ends up deciding this race, as lap traffic muscled its way alongside the fastest car of the day, Prius, and knocked him offline. And now, as the track has got a rubbered in line, it seems like Prius has lost some of his handling capabilities as losing ground to Maybe and Claiming. And the cars he is forced to draft with are too slow for him to really take advantage of. And he'll have to pit before those 2 Fords anyway, and he's got a track position disadvantage. There is literally no positive cards in his favor. Coca and Fuzzball have now slipped back to 6th and 7th position right now. In 5th is Amish. He'll have to pit sooner rather than later, of course. But he should have a bit of advantage over the drivers ahead. Again, 27 laps is the anticipated run that a fuel tank can go fully filled up. So once you see that lap counter hit lap 75, we anticipate most of the field will start making their final stop around that point of the race. Fantastically long green flag run, but due to the way the field got spread out as we came to the green, strategy battles really don't have a chance to play out. It's all just come down to track position. The drivers who are at the front at the end, well, really the drivers who are at the front at the start of the race are still the ones at the front now due to the way the field got spread out there on the restart on lap, I believe it was lap 11, lap 12. Amish with Coca here, and Fuzzball is in the group as well. And then they do have a lapped car in this group as well. That is Scored Buffalo. Buffalo trying desperately to figure out a way to get back onto the lead lap so he can salvage some more points. He'll still likely be the points leader coming out of today's race, but not by nearly as much as he wants. And mind you, he's already missed he's already missed a race this season. He missed the Miami Oval race. So Scored has already used his freebie. Again, in this season, there is a drop round. Scored has already used it by virtue of missing a race earlier in the year. Fuzzball has made his stop, but it is with something closer to 33 laps to go, so Fuzzball has no way to make it to the end by the looks of it. I look at Prius, who is in third. Again, the fuel load's going to be relatively light. He still has some good life on the tires right now. Has a decent amount of fuel, still has some good life on the tires, so he can make it to about 27 laps to go. No issue there. The question is, how deep is he going to go afterwards? I look at this duo, Maybe and Claiming. 41% wear on the tires, 43% in the fuel tank for Maybe. Claiming here in second, 45% in the fuel tank, 41% in the tires as well. Claiming just running behind Maybe, saving fuel. You might say, well, it doesn't really matter if you're saving fuel. It really will, because if you save enough fuel, you can make your pit stop ever so slightly shorter. And if this duo pits at the same time and Claiming has a shorter pit stop, Maybe could lose the lead to Claiming. But it looks like right there, they've just swapped positions. Maybe just pulled offline, let Claiming go by. So now Claiming goes in the lead, and Maybe now gets a chance to save fuel. So teammates working together here. Seems like these guys brought a proper team, and everyone else are just bringing random numbers of guys. About 28 laps left right now. So we saw Golden pitting. We know he can't make it to the end unless he saves a Herculean amount of fuel. So his run near the top of the standings, near the top of this race, likely is going to come to the end late, as he is not able to save the fuel or manage the tires, it would appear. Now this duo is closing in on Dusty once more. Dusty has been a magnet for chaos and disaster. He has had 3 accidents over the course of this race. He is the first driver 2 laps down right now. Actually, he's the only driver 2 laps down right now at that. Maz Leader is coming up to put him a 3rd lap down. It's been a nightmare event for Dusty. Not the smoothest way. You can see Dusty trying to swerve to get out of their racing line, but they all kind of crossed over at the same point, and that's really going to split up the Fords a bit. Claiming got through the traffic no issue, but Maybe is still stuck dealing with traffic. That's the red, white, and blue car of, I think, Big Block. That is not Big Block. Who is that? But in either case, it's taking Maybe much longer to get by traffic than it did his teammate. So suddenly that duo of Fords at the head of the field have a bit of a gap between them now. Now, of course, there's nothing stopping Claiming from laying off the throttle, backing up to catch Maybe and pull him back in. And Prius has now caught this traffic. He's not going to have too much of an issue, though. Mind you, those leaders are going to be coming up on Thomas momentarily. Thomas is having a relatively strong run, but just not fast enough to match with what our podium guys are on track to do tonight. Coca now pits with about 25 laps left. So a lot of these drivers going a little deeper into their fuel and tire runs than necessary. I think everyone feels very confident in saying that there's not going to be yellows to the end of the race. 24 laps left now. And Prius has recaught the Fords, or he's about to recatch the Fords, I should say. He's just barely out of their draft right now, but Claiming did let off to let Maybe catch, and that has brought Prius back within a second of this duo. Now look at their tires. 58.5% for Maybe right now. Look at Prius. 53%, but he's only at less than 6%, so he can finish this lap, do one more lap, then pit afterwards, But maybe and claiming they can go a few more laps, and they already have a lot of fuel in the tank. They can short fill as another defense. Prius cannot afford to short fill, but maybe and claiming can short fill when they make their stop. So Prius will have to pit this time by. Fuel is just too much of an issue for him. Already down to 3.3%. So he'll make his stop with about 21 laps to go. Claiming a maybe. Scooting the length of their tires out just a little bit longer. So it's going to be teammate on teammate for the victory here. And if heaven forbid, claiming and maybe get into it with each other, Prius is just close enough to go by and steal the win again. "22 laps left." So Prius has 23 laps to the end. When does this duo pit? NFL also staying out quite a while. He's moved up to third briefly. These two stay out again. This is going to be a very, very short stop for this duo. They can get away with either, they could pit now and short fill, or they can run till their fuel tanks are out and just put very minimal amount of fuel in the car. And they can throw on the soft tires with no issue whatsoever. That's Prius, who's just come out of the pits behind them, but he is now a lap down to this duo. NFL Racer runs in third position right now, kind of in his zone, not fast enough to do anything to the leaders, and not in a position where strategy-wise he can do anything wild either. So we look at this duo one more time here. 69% on that right rear for claiming. For maybe, his right rear, 69, just about to hit 70%. And when they pit, we anticipate NFL will pit about the same lap. But these duos should have enough of a gap on Prius that they will maintain the lead afterwards anyway. Here we are. They both come in with exactly 20 laps left. Thomas is also paying out of the 5th position, but he is a lap down, so this doesn't really have a massive impact on stuff. Prius will get back onto the lead lap, but he is still going to be well behind the duo, and he's going to be on worse tires to the end. So there's going to be a forward-on-forward battle to the checkered here. Scored Buffalo has worked his way into the 6th position right now. But he's only got 13% in the fuel tank and the tires are burning up. He will have to pit again. So while he is on the lead lap for the moment, he will have to pit shortly and is going to fall well down the order after doing so. Claiming and maybe speeding their way through pit exit right now. This is Prius Killer. Not close enough to fight with them. He'll be close enough to capitalize if one of these two get into it. But lap traffic before the race's halfway point will be what decides the fate of this race. That, and are the teammates going to have some sort of handshake agreement? Have they already decided between them who is going to win this race? Or is this going to be a legitimate man-on-man fight? Prius is 2 seconds out. He basically needs this duo to get into the wall in order to catch them. 10 cars on the lead lap right now, but a bunch of them are on off sequence of their strategies, and they'll be pitting shortly and going the lap down again momentarily. Buffalo briefly works his way up into the 4th position, that purple and white machine, but he's only got about 2 more laps of fuel in the tank. He desperately needs a yellow now to save him. Is Dusty jumping into the pits there. So what is the decision between the Ford duo? Do they fight legitimately for the win? Maybe, we know, is likely going to start all of the remaining races. So he, I would argue, has a stronger chance at the championship against Claiming, who is more likely to miss due to real-life commitments. But Claiming seems to have been faster than maybe throughout most of the day. And claiming had been ahead of maybe in the championship and been putting Scored under more pressure prior to this point. Is there team orders, or will they fight it out between the two of them? About 16 laps left here. Down the back straightaway. You can see Scored has now made his pit stop and he is plummeting backwards. He's going to fall to at least 9th position, maybe 10th. That might come down to where Thomas ends up in relation to him. But for Scored, salvaging a 10th after being one of about a third of the field, getting caught on an impossible strategy after the field went green much earlier than anticipated at the end of the second yellow flag, that might be something he can be acceptably happy with. Not over the moon with, but acceptably happy. Thomas now goes by Scored. What of Stinky Potato? Again, every car that goes by just makes this harder and harder for Scored. But we know he's fast. He'll have great tires and a light fuel load. He'll be flying to the end. He might still be able to steal a position back. Maybe get back in the top 10 against Stinky Potato by the end of this. First, non-attendance. First and second, those have been his results in the first 4 races this season. He's given him a massive lead in the points, and he's going to need it all because Scored has slipped back to 11th. And his closest rivals in the championship, claiming to maybe run first and second. GRPK Golden, to his complete credit, is doing respectable in 5th. But he has not been able to go the full length of the fuel tank. He has not been able to keep the tires under him either. It is very likely we're going to see him plummet downward in the grid in the last few laps. I think Amish is on track for a top 5. Coca, after having a bad time coming out of the pits after his first pit stop, seems to have stabilized into the 4th position just outside the podium spots right now. He has more than enough fuel. His tires are going to be iffy, though. But for the hometown kid, started on the pole, led laps early, but some sort of mistake has taken him out of contention for the win here. 3rd place is going to go to Prius unless the 2 Fords at the head of the field start fighting and they crash into each other. Prius is guaranteed 3rd, which is frustrating because last season, while he was fast, he was not the dominant guy, yet still won it. This season, the dominant car, faster than everybody else, but traffic got in his way, knocked him offline, knocked him into the wall, cost him about 4 to 6 seconds, and it's just been impossible to make time up as this race has gone on. Then it is claiming and maybe was the dominant guy in this race last season, but threw it away off the back of strategy. Him and Dino were the top 2 all race long last season. Both of them made the same strategy kerfuffle. They both dealt with it in 2 different ways, but both of them finished well away from the top spots. Claiming was not even in this race last season. And he's already won an event at the Miami Oval. Again, normally we think of Claiming as more of a road racer. He's normally very, very fast on the twisties in the FEC Championship Series. But this season, his strongest results thus far have come at ovals. As it comes to the line, it's now 11 laps to go. Does maybe make a move? Does maybe have anything to try to make a move? There is a little bit of traffic ahead, but when they got traffic last time, it was maybe, not Claiming, who was compromised the most by it. They're not worried about tire fall-off. They pitted well late enough for that to not be an issue. Scored Buffalo cracks his way back into the top 10 now. Prius hangs out in 3rd. About 2.5 seconds out of our lead duo. As we continue to watch, wondering, are we going to see a move? Are we going to see any attempt at a move here? Has there already been an agreement set in stone before this race started? Or did they engineer an agreement between each other in the middle of the race? And then on top of that, there's nothing stopping maybe from saying, oh, sure, yeah, I won't pass you. You can go ahead and take the win. And then try to snooker claiming on the last lap or two and just lie. There's no penalties for lying to your teammate in this series. There's nothing stopping claiming from trying some devious actions like that. And again, that could go the same way in the opposite direction. Claiming might be leading laps and might say, hey, look, I'll give the lead back to you maybe on the last lap so you can win and close down the championship, and just decide to not do it at the end. We do not know. We are not in the driver's chat. We have no idea what kind of strategy has been cooked up there. Prius in third is kind of whittling the gap down, but with less than 10 laps left, he is not closing the gap with enough pace to do anything to this duo. 2 Fuzzball now pits out of 6th. So Scored Buffalo now capitalizing off of all these drivers who are lead lap runners who could not keep their cars under them as the tires and fuel burned off, and Scored is gaining points back, so he's going to maintain a little bit more and a little bit more of his points lead coming out of tonight's race. It's 7 laps to go this time by. Down to just 7 cars on the lead lap right now. Again, I'm really curious about GRPK Golden. Will he be able to stay on track to the end? Will he have the fuel of the tires? He's down to 13.5% in the fuel tank. The tires look good, but with about 7 laps left, he'd have to be using less than 2% of his fuel tank each lap, and it's not like he's running in the draft. I think Golden is going to have to pit again, and he is going to plummet down the grid and likely plummet even farther down the point standings. That's the lap car Dino going by there. What of Amish? Amish is the interesting case because he has been going long on all of his stints. He's got very worn out tires. He got the fuel, but his tires are in atrocious positions right now. But he is 11 seconds ahead of NFL Racer. We don't think that NFL is going to have the time to run down Amish for that spot. 4th place is Coca. This is another interesting one to watch because he is running right behind lap car in the form of Scored Buffalo. His tires are cooked, but his fuel is good. If Coca can keep these worn out tires under him, 4th place result is still in the cards for him. Prius has closed the gap down to 2 seconds out of the leaders, but unless they start fighting, he has no chance. And even if they start fighting, he needs them to get into each other, knock themselves off of that rubbered-in line, run wide if he wants a shot at this. Down the front straightaway. Maybe fake the move to the inside, but falls back in line. 4 laps to go this time by. Claiming is wide, maybe follows him wide on corner exit. Maybe seems to be doing a little bit better job holding the tighter inside line. I think maybe he's going to try and go for a move here. A race that was denied him due to a self-inflicted strategy mistake last season, but now maybe might be in the position to flip the script. Prius hits the wall farther back and is going to lose a huge chunk of time to the top 2 this time by. 3 laps to go now. Maybe is faking moves, but he needs to commit. Is he going to commit? Does he have anything under the car to commit? Or is he even going to be allowed to go for a move against his teammate? When they come to the start-finish line, there will be 5 miles left. GRPK Golden pits, so he will finish a lap down, and that will be another position for Scored Buffalo. A nightmare day for Scored Buffalo is becoming a little bit better. The light at the end of the tunnel is legitimately the end of the tunnel for him. Now is the last 2 laps. If maybe he's going to make a move, he needs to make it now. You do not want to wait and have a last lap yellow come out and deny you a chance to make the move. Down the back straightaway, into the last 2 corners again. Again, claiming wide in the corners, maybe having a much tighter line, but he's not close enough to make a move. White flag in the air. This is the final time around here. I think the decision may have already been made. They swapped positions a little bit before the final pit stop, and maybe it's slowing, isn't he? Maybe it's slowing. He's out of gas! And your second place driver in the championship is out of fuel! And suddenly everything falls apart for him! Claiming isn't going to be a completely clean air to the end! He's got a little bit more fuel, he somehow has made this work, and he is going to come home out of the final corner with no issue whatsoever! He is going to take victory here at Indianapolis! Prius Killer will come home second. Third, is it gonna be maybe? He is out of fuel. He is limping out of the final corner. Coca is still between turns 3 and 4. He is not there yet. Could Coca steal a podium? That's a slide there by a car farther back, a lap car that is maybe trying to limp down to the start-finish line. Will he get it? Yes, maybe just barely gets third place over Coca. Amish is scored with 5th. NFL will be 6th at the end. 7th will be Thomas, 8th will be Buffalo, 9th will be Fuzzball, 10th will be Stinky Potato. And that will pretty much end our race. We're going to take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we'll try to get some post-race interviews from some of our top finishers here at the Indy 250. Oh, are you serious? All right, can you hear me now?
Hear you.
All right, I'm going to try and get some of these other people in here real quickly as well. Hopefully, Xbox parties don't decide to die on me here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Indianapolis. The biggest race of FEC's Summer IndyCar season is over. And first, I want to go ahead and talk with somebody who started in first position, led some laps early, but ended up plummeting just barely missed the podium positions. Coca, make sure your audio is including the Xbox party. What happened coming out of the first pit, your first pit stall, your first pit stop that caused you to drop so much time? Coca? God fucking damn it! All right, well. All right. Can you? Nope. Nope.